I'm Patrick V, and you're part of the podcast Reimagining Leadership, where I am all about finding a better way to lead. And that's based on the behaviors that will inspire, empower, and compel others to want to follow where you want to go. My guest today is Scotty Schindler. He is a successful businessman out of Australia, as well as a surfer. And having spent a semester way back when in college in Australia, it's a country that I certainly love. And the conversation that I had with Scotty is certainly one that I love as well. He talks about his System 1357 and how it created such success in his own life, and how he has taken this as an opportunity to help other people succeed. And that really, to me, is the theme of this episode. Scotty is talking about how he is empowering other people to reach their own high levels of success. So if that's of interest to you, this is an episode you're going to want to listen to. So let's get into it. Scotty, I thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to get on this call. You have been so successful in Australia in both your businesses from a real estate perspective, but also where you took this in terms of really, I think, helping people to take the process that made you successful. And you're really trying to do that to help other people. We're in such a unique period of time right now. And I'd love your perspective. How do you help people to navigate this based on your own experiences?
Yeah, look, thanks for having me. It's good to be here, Patrick. Across the world, yeah, you're right. I've got my coffee cup here. So hopefully I don't talk too fast for everyone. But, how do we help people in this environment? It's a unique environment. No one really knows. No one can say, look, this is what we did in the last pandemic. And, no one can do that at the moment. But what we all can do is we can all be supportive and be there for everyone. And that's one thing that we know we can do. That's one thing we can control. We can't control everything, but we can control our emotions and we can control our decision making. And as far as being able to help other people go, that's how I ran sales teams in the 90s. So I got really good at running sales teams, and that was through helping other people achieve their goals of what they needed to do to make money as far as a sales team went. So if I helped enough people achieve their goals as a sales team, we achieved what we need to achieve. And I did exactly the same thing through growing a company. So once I established myself in the real estate industry, if I helped real estate agents have good businesses, they kept on using my software. So that's what I did. And what's changing right now is, for me, not much at all. How do I help? Well, I'm just helping other people grow their businesses. So it's all I've ever done is that method of, if I help enough other people achieve what they want to achieve, I'll achieve what I want to achieve. So it's interesting you say you saw that, because that's a methodology that I've had for forever. I got taught that though. So when I went from being a salesperson to a sales manager, they then taught me how to be a manager. But I really caught on to that philosophy of helping other people achieve their goals so I could achieve mine. And I adapted to that very fast. And it made sense that, together as a team, we achieved so much more than what I could on my own. So as far as helping people goes, look, it's so good when you have someone write back to you and say, look, I've changed my business model because of the conversation we've had. And they have this epiphany moment, and you just know they're doing things smarter and better than they were before. And I just love that light bulb moment. It's almost like a drug or an addiction.
Yeah. What I tend to find in terms of when I meet people that have been very successful in whatever area that they're in, oftentimes there's a story behind that in terms of, as I would call it, your past is your power, that it's oftentimes there were struggles or challenges that really help them to get where they are. And I'm wondering, from your own perspective, if you look back on your success and how you help people now, are there any of those challenges that you look back and say those are things that shaped you?
I totally agree that, it's the disadvantages that have the seeds of advantages, and your real character building comes from those downtimes and the disadvantages and the things you didn't really want to go through. But in a sense, I cheated because I had it's not uncommon to have a poor upbringing or, multiple dads and single mum. That's common, right? So, but I had that, and I wasn't very well educated. So, when I on the wall, I have my school report cards up because it shows how much I failed. So my baseline was very low. So I already came from a position of disadvantage. In other words, everything for me was upside. I always had nothing to lose by having a go. And so when it came for downturns and times and periods that I didn't like, it was still way better than where I started. So even though I learned from those and I didn't want to go through those, I wanted to be smarter and better than than being in the position I was in. my upside. So whenever you have a downtime or a bad period, if that's as low as it's going to go, it's still not too bad. You can still bounce out of that. But I started like that. So for a sense, it was like cheating. Now I look back, I go, I was so lucky that I started with such a low base. Everything was upside. Everything.
Now, let me ask you a question along those lines. Who was the first person that you can think back to that said you're meant to do more? Because generally there's one of those people minimum that somebody said they saw something in you that they said you're meant to do more.
Well, I'm not sure who that was. I know in the insurance game, obviously he was getting paid to do it and he practiced what he preached. So he was teaching me to be a better manager, because if he helped me be a better manager, it helped him achieve his goals. So that succession planning came down. So that was a guy who taught me a lot. And a lot of the things I talk about today are because of what I learned from him. But I'm not sure he actually said those exact words to me. But nonetheless, his actions and what he did for me was, he, as a leader or a mentor of mine, well, he helped me get through a lot of the struggles I was going through, whether that be real struggles or team management struggles or leadership struggles. He helped me get through a lot of things. He taught me the term called mental judo, which I then rephrased into business judo. So he taught me the term mental judo, and I've never forgotten some of these things that he taught me as a mentor. And, from 2000 till last year, we actually hadn't spoken to each other that whole time. And last year we reached out because of LinkedIn, and all of a sudden we're in conversations again. And I'm going, do you remember teaching me that? And he goes, no, but I remember. And he probably tried to teach it to 10 other people or 20 other people, but I got it. And other people probably got other things, but he had a profound effect on me. And I can't even tell you when that was, what day it was, what year it was. But I do remember learning lots of things off that one person. But I'm not sure he said anything to me in the effect that you said, but he certainly did believe in me.
He demonstrated it.
He did believe in me enough that I managed to create enough belief in myself to be able to go forward. And having people like that in your life, and sometimes it's from some weird people. So I'll give you a quick story about how I started the company Renat. So I got introduced to Amway, as everyone does, right? And I was out seeing friends. This is 1999. And I was out seeing friends going, join up with Amway, do your own shopping and create a network, all that sort of stuff, right? And this guy's an accountant. So he was someone I looked up to. And he said to me, you know what, Scotty? What you should do is start your own. And I went, oh, yeah, that's actually a much better idea. I've gone, no, I wasn't never going to start an Amway or a multi-level networking, marketing, whatever you want to call these products or services, or, I was never going to start one of those, but I realized, well, hang on a second. I could probably create a system and a business and sell that to people far easier than trying to get people to do their own shopping. So I did. I then went on that journey in 2000 of creating my own systems and my own product and company, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So one person came to me with one thing, and he might have been a throwaway comment for him, but it's amazing how I picked up on that one comment. And 20 years later, I really ran with that comment. He probably should have done the same, by the way. That's another story.
No, he's not reaching out to you saying, listen, you owe me something for that one.
I took his advice, right? You should have taken it himself, because he's still working. But, the point is that, it's amazing where you can get this advice and motivation and mentorship from, if you're willing enough to and open-minded enough to learn from other people.
Yeah. I will often use the line, I think leaders are learners. And I think leadership is in many different ways, but I believe that when we're open to those things, right, we're in a situation right now, again, I think we're that same thing. There's a lot of struggle out there. The resources can be scarce for individuals, but resourcefulness is something that we all have equal access to. And I think that's what will make the difference, is you decide, what are you going to do with what you have? No more than you saying, I've got my report cards framed. This is what I had to work with. And your resourcefulness allowed you to work around whatever stuff wasn't there or you didn't think was there. You had part of your background is obviously very interesting to me, because I started out in firefighting. going through the academy, and I noticed when I went on your site, that's something that you still stay active in. So I'd love to hear from that perspective how you think that kind of training plays into other aspects of your life.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when I moved home in like 2000, it was about 2003, there was this massive bushfire here. And I thought, well, I should go volunteer because I can. I'm working from home. And I went down to the fire station and said, look, because I grew up at the fire station down the road. I said, look, I'm happy to come volunteer. They said, oh, no, you can't volunteer anymore. It's actually a paid job. And I went, oh. So you got to wait for a job to come up. And I'm going, I don't want a job. So I did nothing with it. But I knew guys from the fire station. And I was in the surf club, Surf Lifesaving Club and things like that. And I wasn't really, enjoying that as much as I should. So I got out of that. And then the guys from the fire station said, well, come and join, come and work. So in the end, I did. So, and I get paid, I think, $30 a week to be on call, and we get $30 a call. But what is good about it is it's a profession. So they give us training and we turn up because we're obliged to. So I like the business side of it. So it's not volunteer and it's not full time. It's somewhere in the middle. So we're on demand. And, I to be honest, when I first did it, it was like a release. So I could go from when I walk in the office to, hey, Scott, all these questions and all this responsibility as the company owner, to going to the fire station because of a bushfire and someone else telling me what to do. Scott, can you put some water on the hot stuff over there? Yes, sir. No worries. Off I go. I don't have to think. I can just go. I can be helpful. I can give back to my community. I can do all these good things, right? And it was like a release. I put a different hat on. But I've actually learned so much about that mindset and a completely different field to what I was doing as far as an entrepreneur goes or a business owner. Completely different mindset when you work for a government organisation, almost paramilitary organisation, because it's all about how long you've been there for and your seniority and all these weird things, right, that I never had in private enterprise. In private enterprise, you work as a team. In fact, the people sometimes below you are more empowered than you are in certain situations. Well, it doesn't happen like that in paramilitary, right? So everyone is in a pecking order and it goes from the top down. So it was really good to have that experience and exposure. And I learned a lot of things about leadership and a lot of ways things work completely different from private enterprise to, say, the public service sector or that paramilitary. So it was really good to give back. So I'm out there putting, car fires, house fires, bush fires, ambulance assists. Good to give back, but I was actually getting a lot more back with knowledge and leadership skills and training, and some of the things they do completely different to what happens in private enterprise. So it was good fun. I still enjoy the fire brigade. I'm still in it. I still do it. So it's good.
I noticed that. I saw the picture. I was like, wow, he's still doing it. That's great.
Still doing it.
That's great.
Well, because it's a side hustle, it's something I don't have to attend to. So if I've got work on or I'm going on holidays, it's not my job. It's just a side hustle. It's like being in the Surf Lifesaving Club, So, it doesn't run your life. It's just part of your life and something you're into. But it is good in the way that they have all their training and their organisation skills, because if things aren't done right in the fire brigade, people lose their life. Yeah. So things have to be done in an orderly fashion. So whether you like it or not, if the boss says to you, you're doing it this way, it's because if you don't, it could harm someone. Right. Someone could lose their life. Right. So a completely different mindset with leadership in that organisation as to in private enterprise, when the boss says you need to do it this way, you can question it. In the fire brigade, when the boss says do it that way and there's a house on fire, you just do it that way. Yeah. Ian, I think about it in terms of from a team perspective, you have each other's back. I mean, you rely on each other. There's a huge amount of trust that you develop as a group. And it's important people understand that teamwork. You never go out on your own. You always go with someone else. And that might be so I can support them, or it might be the reverse. It might be me they're supporting. So if I'm in a smoky environment and I sprain my ankle and the fire's getting close, well, I need someone to drag me out. I'm going to do the same thing for my team person. So you've really got to pass the baton and communicate. And, I'm going to go over here 10 meters and look at something. Okay. And if he doesn't come back, well, you know where he is, right? So this renegade thing and going off and doing your own thing doesn't work in that environment. In fact, it's life-threatening in some situations. You just can't do it. Right. And but in private enterprise, people can tend to want to do things like that. Whereas in the fire brigade, you really can't. You have to work with teams and you have to communicate. You just have, or else there's actually repercussions way worse than just, oh, but you didn't tell me that.
It's too late for that.
No, it doesn't work that way. You know?
Yeah.
It's proper teamwork and proper leadership skills and getting along with each other. And in the heat of the moment, knowing that we're not going to talk lovely jubbly talk, we're just going to tell each other facts and get on with it so we get out of there safely. Then we can all do lovely jubbly, have a beer or a coffee or whatever. But in the heat of the moment, let's just do the right things and let's work together as a team. Let's back each other up and let's get this situation dealt with as quick as possible.
Yeah. So it's interesting as we transition over, right? That was one system for success in that environment, but you have a whole other system that you said that you took it from somebody else, but I think it sounds like you really brought this to life for more people to be able to benefit from. And I was wondering, could you speak to that model so that people can understand the power that's in that? Yeah,
sure. So I never actually planned on retiring. It was never part of my mindset. But I never when I sold the business, I did it so we could expand and grow aggressively and de-risk, not because I wanted to retire. But I didn't see eye to eye with the new owners. Long story short was I didn't see eye to eye. So I decided, well, I'm just out. I'm finished. I'm out. I'm financially independent. I never need to work again. So I don't need to deal with this new owner. But what started happening was people started asking me to share the story and teach them stuff. But the reality was, for the first few months, I was lying in bed in the mornings because it was weird how I had this business hangover. I'd sleep until 9 o'clock in the morning. It was like, man, I never used to sleep through the night, let alone through the morning. And I was lying in bed going, but you know what? What's really weird is that I had these specific business goals I wanted to achieve, the systems I wanted to create with the company. I didn't even have a product, but I had the systems. And I didn't know it was going to be a real estate software company, but it had to ring true with these systems. And I went, wow, that's amazing. I managed to pull it off. And then when I retired, people started asking me, well, what were those systems? What was it that you did? And I went, well, here they all are. Here's my Scottyisms. And I thought everybody knew these techniques and these philosophies. Turns out they didn't. So I thought, well, I better trademark these. So I went through the process of registering them. So business judo, leveraging and collaborating and dealing with adversity in a win-win situation. That's a business mindset. Time duplication was another one. So time duplication is the one thing that every successful business person understands. Whether that's through leadership, through product, through wealth creation, time duplication is something that every successful person understands. And then there was the rule of 100. So I understood this methodology of products and staff and clients go through this rule of 100 principle where there's the first 100 seconds, the first 100 minutes, the first 100 hours, the first 100 days, the first 100 weeks, and then the first 100 months. And everything goes through these checkpoints. And it's perfectly normal for someone after 3 or 4 months, 100 days to pivot and change. You go, well, that didn't work. I'm going to change. And that happens with staff. It happens with clients. It happens with your products. Everything goes through that 100 seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. Well, not years, 100 years. I don't think I'll live long enough to see that one. But
keep surfing.
But that's the point. Everything goes through these pivot points. But I knew all this before I started reading it. I knew all this before I decided to leave and start a company. These are all things that I understood. And sugar and cream is another good one. So sugar and cream, you can go chase all the creamy staff, or you can go chase all the creamy clients, or you can go find all the staff that are sugary and the clients that are sugary, just a little bit of stirring, a little bit of knowledge, and all of a sudden they become really good staff. They become really good clients. Just needed a little bit of stirring. And a lot of people go looking for the cream. When there's so many good people out there and so many good businesses and so many good staff you can employ that aren't the creamy ones at the top. They're just people just looking for that opportunity, that next thing. So I always went with the sugar and cream model. And the last one was the business of thirds. So I understood that, 1 in 3 years wasn't going to be good. I understood that 1 in 3 products wasn't going to work. I understood that 1 in 3 sales wasn't going to come along. And I understood that all these things with the business of thirds model, that there was going to be a third of things that were always going to work out well. And I couldn't predict those. And there was going to be a third of things that were never going to work. And there was a whole bunch of opportunities in the middle third, which went either way, depending on how I handled the situation. And that could be staff, product, profits, everything. So that business of thirds, they're the 5 philosophies that I now teach people in more than 30 seconds each about how to grow their businesses. And these aren't things for, okay, well, here's your 100-day click funnel. No. These are things to put in place for 2021, 2022, right up to 2030. And if you follow these 5 things for your leadership, for your sales, for your business model, you can't help but have success.
The one thing that I'm thinking about right now, well, I'd asked you in the earlier, who was it that sort of said you're better than this? Or it sounds to me.
Oh, the accountant back in 1999, you mean?
But you were doing that with the sugar and cream. It sounds like on summary, right? You're finding people that you believe in them, and you're saying you can do this, and you right, and you bring people up.
And that was a very conscious decision.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I retired that I could look back and go, you know what? Those business philosophies, wow, they worked. I mean, I knew they were working because I was using them, but it wasn't until you stop like the end of a football season and you look back at the football season and you go, well, what worked and what didn't work? Well, I got to finish a career and look back on that business journey, and I went, oh wow! I mean, here I am. I'm sitting now with a journey that's ended at 46 years old. I'm really happy that all that stuff worked. And I didn't know if it would, but that were the philosophies of how I built the company. Now, I didn't have a product, by the way. I had to find a product. I took 6 goes. The sixth attempt, so 5 failed, 6 worked. The 6th one, and that was Renet in 2002. So I went 2000, 2001 trying to find it. Then in 2002, I actually had to establish it. And it wasn't until the end of 2003 that I stopped knocking on doors trying to sell it. So nearly 4 years that journey took. But I had the systems. I just need to create the product and find the clients for that product and have the systems work. And it took 4 years. So there was no overnight success. So these systems are things to put into place for longevity, not for this 100-day click funnel thing you might see somewhere and make $100,000. Yeah. Maybe you can, but that's not the point of what I'm doing. The point of what I teach people now is the systems in your business work. And you can rely upon your systems in up times and down times.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think what's interesting about that is we live in a world, right, where things get photoshopped so much, and it's, right, 6 filters before we put a picture out on Instagram or whatever. It's not the real thing. And I think it sends the wrong message to people thinking, oh, Scotty did it. Well, it's got to be easy. So the first time it doesn't work in our favor, we're like, well, that doesn't work. And it works. It's just you didn't give it the time it needed to work.
Yeah. And that's where the rule of 100 comes into it. But, you talk about the real thing. I started doing videos because when people started asking me to talk, and I got asked to speak for Google, right? So Google Startup Grind. And then all of a sudden I thought, oh, people are going to start asking me to do more talking. So I started doing videos so people knew who I was. So people understood how I spoke and what I believed in. And I started doing all these videos for that reason, because I didn't want to turn up to somewhere and have this, oh, Scotty's such a good entrepreneur, and then turn up and go, gee, I didn't realize he had no hair. I didn't realize he had an Aussie accent. Well, I do. I've got all those things, right? So I started doing videos just for those reasons, so people could get the real thing.
Excellent.
And to be honest with you, the other reason I do videos a lot instead of written material is because I'm not very good at English. My school report card, I like I said, I got it on the wall behind me there. I got out of 71 students, I got 70th. So I beat one kid in my higher school certificate, right? And it's funny, I was on a podcast the other day and then someone wrote to me and said, what happened to the kid that got last? I said, I don't know, he's probably in jail. I mean, the quality of the kids in that class, there was about a dozen of us, it wasn't very high. And I was one of them. So, it doesn't matter what you know, it more matters where you want to go. And if you're one of the sugary people yourself, so you're one of the sugary people, you look at all these creamy people and think, oh, they're so wonderful, they're so good. Well, no, you become the sugar. You go find that bit of stirring, listen to a podcast, watch a few videos. I mean, there's Tony Robbins' CD set that I listened to in the 90s. I went and paid $400 for that thing in the 90s because I, wanted to improve, and you can too. So become the sugar yourself. Yeah. Become that bit that stirs you up and gets you going to the next level. So, a lot of people get disorientated because the creamy people or the appearance of creamy people look like they're having all this success. But you can do that too. You can be a normal person and have above normal success. There's just no doubt about that.
Yeah. And, I think also you can find out that some of the creamy people it's not that flavorful. in terms of their cream. My oldest son, who's graduating from college now, I said, once you're out of school, nobody walks around with their diploma saying, this is what I'm worth, pay me this. It's irrelevant at that point. You decide what you're going to do in terms of success. That's not going to earn it. So,
be the sugar. You've got to be the sugar. You've got to be that stirry up and willingness to learn and open up, and not be the cream sitting on the top thinking you own the world. That's just not, that is, there might be an element of that, but to tell you the truth, the sugary people are the ones that succeed.
Yeah. To me, that's around emotional intelligence is I would take emotional intelligence over IQ any day in terms of being able to connect with people. And because if I do that in the right way, I will find people that want to help me out, as opposed to me saying, I'm the smartest one in here. I'll figure it out on my own. I've never been that person, so I wouldn't know what that feels like. But
hey, Patrick, can I introduce you to 2 new terms?
Yeah.
That you've never heard before?
Yeah.
What was the topic of this podcast, by the way?
So the podcast itself is reimagining leadership.
Perfect. So this fits into it. So just to make sure I'm not going astray here, but 2 terms that you will have never heard before. One's RPD and one's CPD. So RPD is what people get in the business world, and CPD is what people get in the sports world. So let's imagine here's Johnny, right? He's gone through his sporting life as a teenager and his student years, and he's top of the sports and everything else. He gets to 18, 19, 20 years old, whatever it is, and he starts to get a thing called CPD, which is car park disease. So he's top of the game, he's the top of the world, and everyone's patting him on the shoulder saying, oh, you're so good, you're awesome. And he spends more time in the car park talking to everybody how good he is. Now, that could be the car park literally or, just metaphorically, but instead of doing all the things that got him to where he was, all that natural talent, he's now no longer, he's become the cream. And yet here's this other kid, Johnny was that guy, but here comes Paul, everyday Paul, but has that grip and that determination and never gives up. He was never in the newspaper like the other guy. He was never on top of the podium like the other guy, but all of a sudden he's 23, 24 and he makes the main game because of determination, because of the fact he became the sugar. He didn't get car park disease. Yeah, okay. Totally. He actually kept that grit and determination going. And that is self-leadership. That is being able to be self-leaded through all the troubled times and all this having to watch other people up in lights, knowing you're just as good as them. You just need that lucky break. And that is self-leadership. Now, the other thing in the business world is we tend to get this thing called RPD, which is almost the same, but it's in business. So what's RPD? I'm glad you asked. It's called rich person's disease. In other words, the same thing happens. They go out and people get a little bit of success in business. Okay, so let's use real estate as an example because I just came from that industry after 20 years, right? So they go out and they've had a bit of success. They're selling a few properties and all of a sudden they go out and buy the Mercedes-Benz or the luxury car and they stop going out and talking to people every day, which is how they actually got the success in the first place. And they're driving around their Mercedes-Benz, stopping at the coffee shop, stopping at the car parks, talking to everybody or buying his and her Mercs and a boat, and they're getting a big thing called rich person's disease. And they're not doing what they did to get them to where they are or to continue that momentum. So they've stopped being sugary themselves. And that self-leadership, like I said, it's disease. It really is a disease. And it's called rich person's disease. So it's better to have those Mercedes-Benzes, if you like. Nothing against Mercedes, by the way. But it's what I'm talking about is goals. Those goals should stay in front of you at all times to keep you driving and keep you sugary so you can keep stirring yourself up and driving towards success instead of arriving at success. Because the worst one isn't actually rich person's disease. The worst one's ARPD, which is almost rich person's disease. So you almost think you're rich and you're spending money you don't have. You're spending next year's money this year. You're spending future money you haven't even made yet, and you're not doing the actions that got you to where you were. So there's self-leadership principles and self-leadership diseases, car park disease and rich person's disease. Same disease, but one's in sport and one's in business. And I know you haven't heard those before because I have not heard those before, but now I've got them. I've so when it comes to self-leadership, it's important for that grit and determination to stay there. It really is important to have that for yourself, So you don't all of a sudden float to the top and become the cream, that you keep that drive and that ambition to keep going. And as a real life example of that, I lived in the house I bought in 1994, which was the same little 3-bedroom fishing village house, all the way through buying investment properties and everything else. And all our friends were renovating and doing improvements and buying bigger houses. And I said to my wife, there's no way I'm paying for this house twice. I worked really hard to pay for the first time. I'm not going to go and I'm going to invest so someone else pays for my house the second time. So I just invested the whole time. Well, everyone else was going out and buying things. And like I said, I'm not saying they had rich person's disease, but what I'm saying is I stayed focused on just keeping things real. So I still had grit and determination and goals in front of me. So I could turn up to work every day and still have a future to look forward to and goals to achieve, rather than getting car park disease myself or rich person's disease myself.
Yeah.
So it's a self-leadership thing rather than anything else. So
I love what you talk about there too, because to me it really, and again, but I've seen the same things around the funnels and some people that might work, but what you're talking about is really about earning this slow growth over time of how you sort of build that momentum. And I think that in the long run is a much healthier way to do it. I often, when I hear people say, oh, that person's self-made, none of us are self-made. Self-motivated, yes, but not self-made. We need other people. We can't do it alone. Just like you couldn't have run your successful businesses without other people helping you along the way. So we're not self-made, but self-motivated is something that I think is the separator. Where you talk about
100%.
self-leadership.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's the techniques of how you keep yourself self-motivated. And that's that self-leadership that I'm talking about. So leadership, before you can lead others, you need to have that self-leadership. Self-leadership is so critical to the actual component. And like I have a system 1-3-5-7, and 1 is about you, and you need to be the best you can be, or else you can't lead other people. You can't help people achieve their goals unless you know what yours are.
Yeah.
You can't do anything unless you're here and you're in the right mindset and frame set yourself. So being the best you that you can be is critical to leadership of other people.
Yeah. And that's your system. I mean, the 1-3-5-7 that's your thing. I mean, that really is, as I'm thinking about people that are struggling out there right now, I immediately think of that, of thinking that's an opportunity, I think, for people, a proven roadmap for people to say, I look at this from a standpoint of there might be many people out there that don't know what they want to do next, or are saying, I want more. What I've been doing isn't working. It's like it's an opportunity to take a look at what you've put together and say, what if I implement this? What if I do this? If I have that self-leadership to be able to do it, where can I go? It's almost like hitting the reset button for people. Yeah.
And the system 1-3-5-7 isn't, well, here's a blueprint and here's a click funnel process, or it's not any of that. It's right. Like, in fact, I probably can't help people start a business in a sense. Like a friend that said to me, you should start your own. He didn't say you should go and start Renet. What he said was you should get these systems and create your own. And I had that epiphany moment. It just took a few years for it to come through. So system 1-3-5-7 is about those systems that can help you create whatever it is. Now, you could be in the hospitality industry. You could be in the entertainment industry. You could be in the car industry. You could be in any industry you like, and you can still implement these systems to grow your business and achieve your goals. And that's what it's about.
Yeah. And my point to that, though, is that this isn't get rich quick, or, here's the quick take on this. To me, this is really about somebody that says, foundationally, maybe I can rebuild something that's durable here. That's what as I look at your system, is something that it provides.
Yeah, correct. And the reality is a lot of people really like what I teach around the sales and, getting some business today. A lot of people really respond to that, which I enjoy because I can have a profound effect on people tomorrow from what I teach today. But I also am very aware that we've really got to have the 10-year goal. And part of the 7 is about time management. Where do you want to be in 2030? Yeah. What business, family, lifestyle, what does 10 years look like from you? Well, let's go back 10 years ago. How much money have you made in the last 10 years? And what do you really have for that? If you made $1 million in the last 10 years, what do you have? If you made $100,000 a year for 10 years, what do you have? I mean, if you're going to do the same thing in the next 10, well, what are you going to have? And it's really important to have that long term as well as the short term. So I need some business tomorrow. Yes, correct. You want some people saying yes to your products and services that you can't achieve your goals. So people really respond to the techniques I teach around sales. But long term, who do you want to be and how are you going to get there?
Yeah.
What's the vehicle? And it's systems you implement in your business that make the biggest difference. The best system company in the world is McDonald's. They don't sell hamburgers. They just have a system. Just people go buy the hamburgers and that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
But just their systems for training, for teaching, for serving, for delivery, for marketing. They have the best systems in the world. Arguably so. Someone else could probably bring up another person. Like Amazon's got some of the best systems in the world nowadays. But systems work.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I really have appreciated this conversation, especially around that. I think it's a great way to segue into if people want to reach out to you and learn more about this system and get involved in it, how do they do that?
System1357.com, or you can follow me on LinkedIn as well. I put up a lot of free content. I share a lot of information, a lot of experiences. But if you want to get it now, well, you can go and obviously subscribe to System1357.com as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I started to go on it. Actually, I had registered for it. There's so much information on there that is it's really well done. And obviously, you've done it. So.
Thank you.
It works. Thank you so much. Wishing you all the best. Hope you is it a third cup of coffee you're off to, or is that going to do it?
2 a day is enough for me. If I have any more than, I don't think I explode or anything, but I really like 2, and I limit myself to 2. But can you see how big that cup is?
That's nice. Good. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I'm glad we were able to connect.
And thanks for the listeners for listening. I mean, this is your self-leadership opportunities. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. Scotty has such a great background. And again, I love his System 1357, I think does provide so much power and ease of following for so many people that are looking for ways to elevate themselves. And the fact that he talks so much about really helping other people to get what they want. That in the end, when we do that, we really do get the things that we need just by helping other people to get what they need. If you know somebody you think would benefit from this episode, I ask you to forward it on to them. If you haven't subscribed yet, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe and also leave a rating or a comment on this or any other episode, because that's how this message around reimagining leadership and finding a better way continues to get out there. And until our next episode, I hope you're able to rise above your best. Peace.